Okay, welcome back, everyone. I'm Raffaele Dall'Oglio from B-Sources, hosting this panel session. Right before we start with the panel session, we are going to take a group picture for this final event. So I welcome the in-person participant to stand in front of the chairs, and also the online participants who want to be in the picture. Just turn on your camera, and please, somebody can share the screen on the main screen here in the room.
Just to let you know, for online participants, all we can see is an icon for the, I think for the technician. We did have you all in glorious vision, but now we've lost you. Hopefully they can hear us. That's better. Yeah, we're back. Thank you. Again, we've lost.
Yeah, James, what are you saying, James?
Yeah, again, we've lost the vision of the whole group of you. We've just got the technician's icon at the moment. Yeah, that's better. We're back.
You're too much behind. You're too much behind. What about? No.
Babies, everybody see the camera with smile. Wait, like. That's something.
Okay, thank you everyone for participating in the group picture. So I now welcome the member of the panel. One more picture. Okay, sorry, the picture was not taken, so let's do that again. Just 1 minute more, sorry, I ask for your patience.
We need to take the picture again. There was a big finger on the, well, on the previous photo, so. Yeah. Yeah, well,
We will Photoshop.
Okay, more fingers.
Okay, so again, 8 legs. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's go. Yeah.
So hopefully that's a good one. Okay, so while I welcome the guests to go back to their seats, I will start calling for the member of the panel session. So first, Dirk de Graaf, our project coordinator from University of Ghent, that focused all of his research career on disease-causing agent. And so that was the best leader for this project, I guess. Then my assistant here at the desk, Martin Schönman. Yeah. Yes. No, just the background, the slide is okay. Up to you. Martin from Beep Foundation, developing open source services, this time for beekeepers. And I think from the start to the end of this project, the system make a sensitive jump ahead. I have to personally congratulate for this. And then Elisabetta Ziolkowska, sorry for misspelling the surname, from the Jagiellonian University of Krakow, Poland, that, as he already explained in her presentation, was involved in Work Package 3 and also collaborating in Work Package 5 for the developing of the floral mapping resources. And finally, we have an online guest that we maybe can also show on the screen. Theodore, I don't know, you choose, which is Valerio Abbadessa, Research Policy Officer from the European Union and Project Manager for the DG Agri for Research and Innovation. Vim, as well, are you
sorry,
taking part in our, yes, why not? Yes, Vim, who also gave his last talk. And yes, we also have to include Xiandong because we didn't have the question after the talk in their session. So they will be also included in the panel. But I panel discussion was with all the presenters, with all, no? But we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. It was just because of matter of time, but because we have 3 sets of questions. I will now explain the rule of this panel session. So we will have 3 set of questions, and each set of questions will be accorded by 15 minutes. So I will give 10 minutes to the member of the panel to provide some answers. So whoever is willing to answer to that question, I will not address directly a question, but who feels that the question might be relevant for his task and his job is welcome to answer. And then we will leave 5 minutes after every session for question and answer from the audience here in the room and the audience online. So I will now sit close by to you, and we will use this microphone to share the question.
And just a short interruption, Raffaella. Sorry, we have got
Yep.
Valerio. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Yep.
Short interruption, Valerio. He would like to say a few words. He's got a couple of slides to give a bit more of the context about the Be Good project within the.
Yes, of course. This is right
okay,
following
sorry.
the instruction for the
Okay,
panel
great.
session.
Sorry.
Okay? That
Sorry
was,
about that, Raffaella.
no worries. So yes, so it will be 3 sets of questions, also addressed to Valerio Abbadessa online, for sure, and 10 minutes for the replies and 5 minutes for further question and answer from the audience. So before we start with the set of panel, I would like to give the floor to Valerio Abbadessa from DG Agri to provide an overview about the EU policies and research and innovation action, and also maybe some link with the just funded Be Good project. Please, Valerio, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me and you can also see the slides because, well, my screen, I cannot see everything, but I hope it works. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me, and sorry that I was not able to be there. Well, the idea is to give you a very short overview about the policies and the activities in research and innovation related to sustainable beekeeping. Voila, this is the very few slides. I mean, when we talk about domestic or wild pollinator, usually we refer to a few policies, but in reality, we should have a more cross-sectorial approach, taking into account different policy framework. This is because, well, as we have heard before, I mean, the beekeeping is an important component of agriculture, sustainable agriculture, also food security. It's important for environment. We have heard about the ecosystem services, the economy of rural areas, also of urban areas. So in general terms, let's say the Commission has taken several actions under the European Green Deal you are familiar with to address this decline, pollinator decline, and also to improve the sustainability of the food system. But usually we mainly refer to the farm to fork strategy and the biodiversity strategy, which are really important. But there are also other initiatives like let's say, for example, the soil strategy with the new policy framework for the soil health law, the forestry strategy, and then there are also other initiatives to bring nature back to agricultural land, like the organic action plan, the revision of the sustainable use of pesticide, the directive, the action plan on nutrient management to reduce the pollution from fertilizer, the zero pollution action plan, and so on. And there are also some upcoming initiatives that are mainly related to healthy and sustainable diets, which has also an indirect impact on pollinators, especially domestic bees and domestic pollinators, like the sustainable food labeling framework, and also the promotion program at the European level, and also the European Union school scheme. So there are several. Here you can see in red the most important, let's say, initiatives that have a direct influence on bees and pollinators, but also the other in green are quite important. The next slide, if I manage to, voila. If we go to more in detail, well, you know the revised pollinator initiatives with the 3 pillars on knowledge, on conservation, and also on engaging stakeholders, and which has been revised in January this year. But this pollinator initiative is also goes, let's say, hand in hand with the nature restoration law that was adopted in July by the European Parliament, that has some overarching objective, like the requirement to the countries of the country to introduce a measure to restore nature on about 20% of their land and sea. And by 2050, measure also should be in place for all ecosystem. Let's say that the natural restoration law set several obligations with regard to the pollinator. They want to reverse the pollinator decline by 2030. They want to increase the trend of pollinator population. And there are also obligations for monitoring. Some of these measures under the natural restoration law need, in order to improve agriculture and food security, need a medium long-term time frame, but there are also some restoration activity or action that might have a positive effect also in the short term. In a few years, let's say, for example, the other, well, I don't know, the flower strips on other landscape features that have an impact on the pollination. It has been mentioned that also the EFSA, the work that EFSA is doing. There is there was this risk assessment on plant protection products. There is a revision of the bee guidance document. The public consultation, I think, is going to close tomorrow, if I'm not wrong. And we have also participated with some of you to a recent meeting of a project, of a tender, which aim to develop a roadmap to advance the environmental risk assessment methodology for pollinators, focusing on chemical pesticides. Then there is the CAP that you know very well. The strategic plan developed by member states includes several actions. Some of them want to create, I don't know, feeding areas for wild pollinators. Others want to establish areas, non-productive areas on arable land in order to improve the status of the pollinators. I mean, there are several measures that will be different between the several member states. And then there are also among the CAP objective, there is among the several objectives, there is one who is cross-cutting, which is the one on knowledge and innovation, which mean knowledge exchange, innovation, and also digitalization in rural areas, in agriculture, so also for the pollinators community. Well, I don't spend so much time on the eco scheme, but you know, under the eco scheme, several practices can be funded, and several practices are supported, like organic farming, agroecology, or also precision farming, and then there are also the rural development programs. With regard to the Green Deal, well, the farm to fork and biodiversity, which are the main strategies, well, you know the targets for 2030, which are quite important, have an impact also on the honeybee sector that, let's say, has been under stress since many years ago. And if we consider, let's say, the status now with regard to the biodiversity, we are almost on track with some targets, with the exception of the nutrient loss, where the data is missing or the quality and quantity of data is inconsistent. Concerning the research innovation, this is not an exhaustive list of projects that have been funded by Horizon 2020, but you can easily recognize some of the projects, like, well, your project Be Good, but also others. Maybe the project that you see highlighted in red are those more focused, let's say, on health aspects, but there are also other kind of projects. DG Agri, our DG, but also DG RTD. I mean, we both we support the digital technology for the beekeeping sector, which, well, we have heard today, like sensor or decision support platform, or also digital skill for farmers, smart farming, support also to rural community through sharing best practices, organize beekeepers community, etc. And also interesting to highlight the meeting that we had last year in October 2022, a meeting of cluster projects on bees and pollinators organized by the research executive agencies, where some funded project by the European Commission, including Be Good, and also other colleagues from DG RTD, DG Environment, DG Santé, etc., had the possibility to share their views on the gaps and also on the opportunities for the beekeepers. And then there are the other projects funded not only by the Societal Challenge 2 of Horizon 2020, but also by the ICT, by digital technology, or by the digital, by the ZEP program, or other projects funded by Marie Curie, or in the Pillar 1 Horizon 2020, or by the late leadership in enabling industry, enabling industrial technology, and so on. Here you have in this list, for example, 3 new projects: Better Bee, Bee Guards, and Bee Tenet, which are part of Horizon Europe, and where some of you is involved. And I must finish, let's say, highlighting the fact that there are 2 things. First of all, that next year there will be 2 co-funded partnership that financed by Horizon Europe, one on animal health and welfare and the other on agroecology, where there is a consistent amount of money, where there is a contribution from member state and associated country to participate and to implement the program of this partnership. And also there, in both partnership, there might be a room also for research and innovation on pollinators on wild, especially domesticated pollinators. And finally, we are now starting to work for the next work program, 25 up to 27. We are still at an early stage. We are still doing an internal brainstorming, but I'm sure that through your national delegates and through the program committee, you can eventually provide some input to the discussion that will follow in the next year in order to prepare the work program. And with this, I give you the floor, and thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much for this comprehensive overview about what's going on in Europe and the future policy. So again, I welcome our in-person guests to take their seats here. And I would like to start with a general question for all of you, addressing maybe what do you think that might be one peculiar aspect of your work within the Be Good project that might be, I would not like to say a game changer, but let's say that might strongly affect in a short period of time research or the community of beekeeping. Who is willing to start with that answer? Dirk.
I'm willing to kick off, and you probably are not surprised that I refer to Marcus's selection. I think it might have quite an impact. Why do I think that? Because we have these days an approach in selection that is top-down, meaning that you have a few beekeepers that are providing the genetic material for the basis of the beekeepers. So in Belgium, we have some beekeepers that do larvae grafting for queen rearing, and they graft 2,000, sometimes 3,000 larvae coming from exactly the same queen. So we are in a situation where we are creating, let's say, a negative trend in genetic diversity. And I think that Marcus's selection is accessible for all the beekeepers. Everybody can just take, let's say, a handful of bees, send them to a laboratory. It should be organized, but and based on that, you could create the opposite thing, which is bottom up, so that all the beekeepers they contribute to the selection program. And I think it will have a great impact on genetic diversity, and it can have an impact already quite soon after we launch it at a large scale.
Thank you. Anyone else is willing to address this question? Martin Bensik, please.
Perhaps a game changer would be any research that will reduce the time and efforts that the beekeeper is presently investing into their colonies to come back to the olden days where beekeeping was perhaps more easy. So perhaps a game changer is any research that will relieve the burden that beekeepers are presently suffering in looking after their hives because of all the stresses that we've highlighted, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I will wait for some more answer.
I can tell a couple of words. So of course, from my perspective, I think that our models, so the floral resource models, helps to better understand the landscape level perspective. So what is there within the landscape, and it well goes within this system-based approach in which direction we should all go. So I think that it's maybe at this stage not so well prepared for the practitioners yet, but it soon should be. And at the research level, it gives us a lot of tools to better investigate the landscape level, availability of resources, and identification of food gaps. So I think that's really nice.
Okay, Xiaodong, you wanna...
Yeah, so from Wim's talk, we can find not so many beekeepers, they are trying to using this new technology to monitor their hives. I think the reason is what they want is not the graph of the hive weight or the inner in-hive temperature from their hives. What they want is some information, useful information from this data. So like if we can make this prediction while to give them some early warnings, then they can take proper action to do the inspection to find out is more and more varroa in the hive or some disease is spreading in the hive. I think this can attract more people to use new technologies to monitor their hive.
Yeah, I like to build on that as well. I think beekeeping is changing. in various ways. So because of these stressors, and beekeepers worry about that too. So while honeybee research is ongoing and getting more advanced and there are more insights, beekeepers are also more and more curious. What do I do? How do I adopt to this new situation? And I believe BeeGood has shown that researchers and beekeepers working together on these challenges can benefit both groups. So the researchers can do their thing and publish and create these insights, and beekeepers can learn on the go and contribute to this. And hive monitoring makes it easier for them to also do their own analysis and to compare notes and to also move to less invasive beekeeping. So a more natural way of keeping the colonies, keeping them healthy, but being warned if something is off. And so sensors are more sensitive to seeing, like, are there changes anomalies that say that might predict that something is off. So I think yeah, I think we'll in the coming years see that that this will get more advanced, and also I hope that beekeepers get more and more involved in this, in terms of what is the food availability, improving the food availability for the honeybees and other pollinators, and interpretation of sensor data, and yeah, making that as useful as possible.
Wim?
Yes, it works. From the socioeconomics research, I would like to stress the value of the insights related to the SWOT, because both for public policy as well as for the beekeeping community, the wealth of information that we collected through those interviews is indicating what the strengths, what the weaknesses are, and how those can be used or prevent this beekeeping community to cope with threats in the environment. So that is a wealth of information to inform policy, and also actions by the beekeeping community as a united sector, for example.
Definitely, I agree. And if I can add to that, I think also the analysis on the diversification of the different beekeepers' operation and the orientation might also help the trainers, the beekeeper advisor, in order to better focus a specific train to a specific sector. I think that's very important analysis, because as we said, beekeeping is changing. So any comments?
Raffaella,
Yes.
sorry, Valerio has his hand raised. I think he may want to have a point from the commission side. So
No, very short, if I can, if you allow me 1 minute. I mean, I was
Sure.
quite impressed until at least until we had the online connection about the digital technology that you present. No, you talk, well, you embrace several things: modeling, mapping, resource calculator, etc., and they certainly offer great benefits. But I think also, and this is important, I mean, the coverage of landscape of multiple habitats and the scale up is important. But it's important, I think, also for the beekeepers to identify, to select, to uptake technology that align with their needs. So we must ensure that they have the skills and the resource to implement this digital solution, let's say. So it's also important, it's fundamental to cover landscape, territorial level, etc. But it's important also to focus on the local level, because, well, we have seen also before, the reality is different in several rural areas. They are quite diverse, no? So maybe it's the same line of bees using different location may perform in a different way. So it's important to have a look at the broader context, but also to have pay attention also to the local level. Thank you.
Thank you. I see another hand raised by Noah at BeLife.
Yes, thank you. Well, I think, let's say, yeah, I'm certainly very supportive of technology, let's say, applied to beekeeping, but I think we also need to realize what is the field situation. And the field situation, at least for those who live from beekeeping, is that they have in the southern part, not in the northern part of Europe. In the southern part of Europe, that is actually where the main honey quantities are produced. The heating situation makes that the production is very, very unstable. Plus, they have very high colony losses, and then now they also have very low prices. So with this mixture, I mean, sincerely, a lot of the professionals are going bankruptcy. So I think I was very supportive to what Wim said. It would be, for me, it would be very, very important that the socioeconomic aspects of beekeeping are much more researched for, from the point of view of, I don't know, creating new market possibilities for beekeepers, or diversification, or that their, I don't know, that their role for society is recognized and they can be rewarded for it, or something like this. And then in terms, I think it's important not to lose also what is happening at the political level. And at the political level now, what is put on the table is that actually the honeybees are the enemies of wild pollinators, and therefore a lot of beekeepers, they need to be kicked out from where they were, natural areas, etc. So I think there is, in my point of view, from a maybe, I don't know, socioeconomic or political point of view, I would really appreciate if research could actually bring some light on that regarding, I don't know, the resources availability. And if there is a problem in resources availability, that research could provide a solution to it. Because if there is a lack of resources, maybe the solution is to put more resources instead of kicking out the people that are living out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah, for this comment. James, is there any other comment in the chat, maybe?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, any comment from the room here? No? Okay, so I would move to the next question, which is directly linked to the previous one. So you said what might be a game changer. I would like now to ask you, do you foresee any challenge to uptake this into reality? I mean, Dirk already explained that the technology is ready. I might foresee, for instance, some cost problem or some logistic problem in implementing the technology in order to sensitively affect the composition of the genetic population of the bees at a European level, for instance. So each one of you, do you foresee any peculiar challenge to uptake your innovation to the beekeeping sector? Dirk.
Yes, I think also that the financial aspect is a major obstacle in the implementation of some of the things that we have presented from the Be Good project. Both maybe in terms of market resistant selection, it cost money, and I always tell, when I present to the beekeepers my story of market resistant selection, I always tell them that this is not intent to be paid by themselves, that it is that I believe that here, let's say, a regional authority or a national authority should assist and create a program where a number of analyses are paid by these authorities. So maybe in the same line, that if we want to make that that switch to these hive monitoring technologies, that also there the authorities take an initiative of a group purchase or a reduced price or whatever. But financially, there is an obstacle, and maybe the authorities. Maybe I answered already your third question, because that could be a partner in this way. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to also mention the cost, of course, especially with hardware and running the hardware, keeping it up and running. Looking at the winter loss figures for the Netherlands and for Belgium, they are very high over last year. And there are worries about the reason for that. Actually, it's unknown. And I believe the technology is at a stage where it can be implemented nationwide. And if you do that nationwide, you can also manage that and finance that nationwide. In terms of having like a sentinel network or a network basically of participating beekeepers. So say in the Netherlands, there are 5 beekeepers in every province, 12 provinces that take notes. So they do the inspections, they take note of their observations as well as hive monitoring. You know the locations, you know the food resources in the area. Beekeepers could also do some surveys on food resources, weather information. You have an immense data set that you can basically do continuous monitoring instead of doing a 1-year survey, you know, after winter to see, oh, how much loss? Okay, now we know the loss. Instead, you have lots of data continuously to know. So when did the beekeeper see a colony was lost? And what were the actions? What were the observations just before? And what about the surrounding? So I think, I think those sort of large-scale projects are needed. And actually, it's not a project. It's not a project with an end. It's basically a program. It's something to implement on a national scale to be able to have that, that finger, that pulse, let's say, that information.
The management practice, actually.
Yes, and it relates to management practice. Absolutely, it relates to what do the beekeepers actually do, because they're also one of these disturbing factors. And so, of course, they take care of the honeybees, but they also, you know, they can also cause problems because of their actions. And this makes it possible to track that information.
Wim, please.
Related to the adoption of digital technology, I would like to refer to the risk of a digital divide that is commonly seen in agriculture when new technologies are introduced. But there, in other sectors of agriculture, the digital divide typically refers to the large commercial farms who adopt the technology first and who also benefit from the technology. Here in the beekeeping sector, in my opinion, we risk to have the opposite, where it will be the large professional beekeepers who can probably not afford to adopt the technology, whereas it will be much easier adopted by those skilled hobbyists who have no strict commercial incentive or ambition. But still, it will be a digital divide, which may not be at the benefit of the whole beekeeping community in the end. So that is certainly something to monitor, how that adoption will evolve in the near future.
Thank you. Martin.
Thank you, Wim. I'm reminded of Zhao Dong's slide where he said timing is everything or something like that. And with regards to timings, I think we have a challenge. I have been privileged to have my PhD supervised by Sir Peter Mansfield, who invented magnetic resonance imaging in 1973. So I've got his paper, I've studied it, and it's proven on paper. He invented magnetic resonance imaging in 1973. It took 20 to 30 years for a commercial machine to exist and to start being used in hospitals. And it is now acknowledged to be one of the most powerful diagnostic tools. So some of the science that we're doing, unfortunately, is taking tens of years, decades, to come up with something useful and interesting. And we are perhaps fighting a losing battle, because on the other hand, the changes on the world are accelerating in pace. And it is quite overwhelming to see how quickly things are changing. And we're working on science that is taking decades sometimes to provide some useful outcome. So one challenge is the timings of things. And at the moment, the world is changing incredibly fast, in my opinion.
Thank you.
So in that line, but also a bit in line with what was already said by our online participants, is that I think that a lot of people have problems with seeing how this modeling stuff that we are all doing and showing to you can be really useful, because it's going from, let's say, coming from something on the computer, and then how we can go to the beekeeper and how this in practice can be used. But it's I want to just underline that that's really going on somewhere. So we have already some successes, maybe not with the beekeepers yet, but our modeling exercises with some simulations of changes in the landscapes and how they can influence the beneficial organism in agricultural landscapes, that has been used by environmental ministry in Germany, but also in the Netherlands to guide, to make guidelines for agricultural management. And I think that's really important to see that we could really have an impact. And if we work hard on making these connections with environmental agencies, with ministries of environment to help us to go a bit further with what we are doing and to guide these management practices in the landscape. In many countries, for sure, in Poland, I know how it is. I'm not sure how in other countries, but I can assume that almost everywhere there are subsidies for planting flower strips or grasslands, which should be good for pollinators, but it's not, we are not guiding the farmers how to do it in a right way. So to tailor it to the local environment, to what they already have there, because if they already have something, maybe they need a bit other things which are missing. So I think it's really important to see these local needs and adapt the management and the guidelines to these local needs. And I think that with these new technologies, we can increase these connections. So we have a lot of in our hands to help to guideline the management. And I think we should be also a bit positive with what we are doing, that we already have something. It's of course needs time to go further, but yeah, just a positive message.
Thank you. Valerio, I see your hand raised. Do you want to add a comment or a question?
No, just to complement with the last two interventions from Wim and Elzbieta, sorry for for the name. No, I think, well, the economic issue is certainly relevant, but we should also explain and work with the farmer, with the beekeepers, in order to let them to understand why exchange of data is important, because very often they think the data is needed for compulsory regulation or laws, or somebody want to control them, but in reality it's an issue. So the farmers, the beekeepers should understand, should be aware that sharing data, sharing knowledge, expertise, etc., can lead to a better understanding of the main issue, main problem, and also understanding of the best practices in different regions. And another issue is also, as was mentioned by some of you, is the interoperability of data, because we have a lot of machine at farm level, also in the professional beekeepers, but there is not interoperability, there is no harmonized data collection, standardization, etc. So, and this is also another important bottleneck, I think.
Thank you. We have a question from the audience. Fanny.
Thank you. It's not exactly a question, it's just a comment, because I fully agree that the world is changing and we are going to a digital world. So everything is going to be digitized and we need to have a knowledge sharing. So if we are talking about the technologies, technology is helpful. Okay, maybe it could be also bringing some ethic problems, because technology is also the robotic bees. But we're not talking about this today. Today, we're talking about the tools. And from my experience shows that the tools are mainly good for monitoring and understanding the condition. We need to make the beekeepers and the farmers understand that they are not going to give them the solutions immediately. They might be used as tools for policy makers or for the research people to create the solutions for them later on. Because if, for example, they rely only on the measurements that they get, even if the precision is 90%, at the end, they will never learn to be good beekeepers. They need to open the hive and see what is going on in there. And one of the reasons why professional beekeepers do not really buy them or use them, or use the most sensitive or the most complicated sensors, is because they are expensive and they do not want to invest on this, because if they invest in one colony here, then what's happening to the other 10 appears that they have all over the country. So the cost is something which is very important, but it could be somehow helped by the national authorities if they want to create databases to give information to beekeepers. So this kind of centers, they should be created. And from the other side, I suppose that all these tools, they need also to, I mean, the European Union, because we were talking about Europe, the European Union could help or press the national authorities to control and bring them down. Because if you leave them completely like that, okay, we have a very good plan for the 30, 50 years ahead, but if we don't control and impose particular rules and directions, they will never take place or implement it. And then another last, I don't want to take so much time, is the education, because it seems that we are lacking education. Our beekeepers, the last few years, they have some education, but when we asked from another project, when we asked the farmers if they ever learned anything about pollination requirements of their crops, 75% of them, they said no. So we need education even on many important issues to bring the producers together, to have a good collaboration, to have the balance, and then of course to every sector, how to use the good or the useful tools in order to increase the profitability in a very much changing world, because with the climate change and the digitalization and whatever, I think that being a beekeeper, because I'm talking mainly for beekeeper, it's very difficult. I'm really afraid of what is going to happen. Very optimistic though, but we have to work a lot on this. Thank you.
I agree. That's a complex situation, and talking with the elder beekeeper, the most frequent lesson I learned that you never finish to learn. Actually, every season is different. Every season is changing, and the challenges are every time higher. So it's a never-ending process, the learning in the beekeepers. This is also for the most experienced one. James, are there many? Oh, sorry, Wim.
I would like to comment very briefly on your remark about education and the beekeeping sector and so on. One of the very important weaknesses that emerged from our analysis is that the beekeeping sector is poorly united. There are many associations with different agendas, and there is no such thing as a beekeeper's voice in Europe. And in that sense, the beekeeping sector is also very different from the rest of the agricultural sectors, which is a weakness that prevents the sector to benefit from opportunities and to cope with important threats.
Yeah, there is some common ground sometimes. So James, is there any comment in the chat?
There's a couple of comments from Noah, and I see she's got her hand raised, so maybe she wants to add to those comments in the chat. I'll see if she turns on her mic.
Yeah, no. Actually, I wanted now to come back on what Wim just said. It is there is a division as well, let's say on the farming side. Okay, it's just that there is a mainstream from the farming community and then they are outliers. But the mainstream is much stronger than the others. And the problem for this division, actually, is that the beekeepers cannot really, they are somehow censored in the farming, in the main farming farming union, let's say. So then they are obliged to find their way, because in many of the occasions they are disturbing the other farmers. And so yeah, I don't know if there is any research that can be done to solve this situation, because this is very much like a human interest or something like this. But yeah, that's I don't know, that's the way it is. And even if the beekeeping sector is trying to get united, as you said, the realities of the beekeeping community around Europe are very diverse. And because of this diversity, the opinions about what needs to be done are different. And yeah, it's I don't know. The only thing I can say is that the beekeeping community is at least trying to get together, but because of this diversity, it's very hard.
Thank you, Noah. Any other comment? I have to say I agree with you. I mean, the diversification of the orientation and the expectation on managing bees is also sometimes creating this strong debate within the beekeeping community. But I believe it is a constructive debate, and in the near future, hopefully also with some new generation coming in, I think we might find some common ground to unify the sector. That's
I mean, what I also want to add, I mean, maybe the sector is not unified and speaking as one voice, but there is a very fluid communication among all the associations. Okay, so it's not that because there are many associations, the associations don't talk to each other. That's not at all the reality. So even if maybe some associations would publicly defend a different position, let's say, which I don't think it's much more different. Let's say it's just a nuance. I don't know how you say that in English. Nuance. There is a very, very good communication among the beekeeping community at European level.
Thank you. If there is any other comment from the chat, otherwise there is a comment in the room.
No, let's go back to the room, Raffaella.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to comment on the digital divide between hobby and professional beekeepers, and also relating to that on the need for public support. I think one point was addressed, that the professionals are very price sensitive because it needs to make a profit. The hobby can easily lose a lot of money. But I also think that the professional beekeepers are quite well aware of technology that is available, because it's their livelihood, and they also talk to each other. It's not like they don't know, but they might have less need of the technology because they know very well what they are doing. They have completely different management practices than hobby beekeepers, where they might benefit less from the support given from a system like Beep because it very much advises people with little experience. But if you have a very well-oiled machine and you know what you're doing, you might not actually have that requirement. And I think when the technology gets to the point that the price point and the utility is there, then the professionals will also recognize that, and there will be absolutely no need for any public funding support. Like there is no need to make people buy smartphones. People see the utility in that. So once the technology gets to that point, the adaptation will take care of itself. That's my comment.
Thank you. Okay, one last comment from Fanny, and then I think we should start wrapping up the session.
Well, just to be a little bit more positive, let's take it from another point of view, because we looked into the good beekeeping practices, this 11 good beekeeping practices, levels of, practices. And what the sector needs is tools like, for example, how we can predict the winter losses, okay? Or how we can predict where the production will go. Or tools like the genotyping for use to the selection process and things like that. First, we need selection national projects everywhere. We don't have it in every country anyway. But think that maybe this kind of tools will also help us to avoid the bad beekeeping practice as well. So maybe it will give us, the reason to know which are the bad beekeeping practice that it will lead to collapse or whatever. So it could be another positive message.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for contributing to this. I'd like to start wrapping up this session, and I would like to address one last question to the coordinator, Dirk de Graaf. So starting from the outcome of the Be Good and entering this new project, Better Bee, how do you foresee the collaboration with the beekeepers? Will you engage them again? In which way? And maybe specifically target one of the clusters that were identified within our survey? Or again, do you have any priority in targeting future collaboration with beekeeper?
Well, in the Be Good project, we devoted a special work group on the multi-actor co-development, and and I must admit that in the beginning it was more a strategic step to do that. We were aware that multi-actor engagement was important for the evaluation of the project, but I must say that there was a growing appreciation for this interaction with the beekeepers. And so we simply took over that in, let's say, in the Better Bee project as well. So we will continue to use, let's say, the beekeeping sector to communicate with us, to show them where we are and what we find. And I think this is the best way forward.
Okay. So it was mutually beneficial. That's nice to hear. So again, I would like to thank all of the participants to the panel discussion, and also our guest online, Valerio Abbadessa, and also all of the guests that were actively engaged in questions and comments this afternoon. Thank you, everyone. And I think we can close this session now.